All right, and it says we are live. My name is David Ortiz. I am running for the Colorado State House here in HD 38, which is Littleton and the western parts of Centennial. But today, we've got a very special broadcast for you. I took a little personal point of privilege and brought some amazing service members and veterans together, and we're doing a Memorial Day special to remember and honor the fallen. We're going to give everybody a couple minutes to get on, so please enjoy the smooth jazz of Michael Haggins.
No, just grab my horn,
yeah. Dude, that would have been. I knew that. I should have done that. You're not trying to brag too much, but.
Ooh, I see you over there. I see you over there. It's hard to beat 4 aces.
I think I like mine better.
Dig it. I mean, I made some junk coffee this morning, but I didn't have time to redo it. It's weak sauce, so but.
You knew you were gonna put it. Yeah, hopefully we can get John back, man. His reception is kind of shoddy.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, gonna get that live watch party started.
Right on.
And maybe he needs to come a couple miles more in. He's just pressing the line too far.
Not at 49. We're like 46.
All right. Hey, jumping back on. See if you can join us.
There we go.
Man, I'm so sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
It's all good.
All right.
You know, Southern Alabama is not known for its remote cell reception and signal. So.
Yep.
Oh man. Yeah, I remember when I first moved into Littleton. I don't know if they were having problems with their power grid or what, but there was one summer where my power went out 4 times.
Yeah, my power goes out twice a week.
Getting hacked by the Russians, man.
Not even joking. I know when it goes out because my printer starts rebooting. My iMac fires up. My door alarms start going off. That's twice a week.
I mean, we didn't even lose power that much in Afghanistan. That's what I said to myself. I was like, I did not go to deployment and then move back to Colorado just to have my power go out this much. Are you kidding me?
No kidding.
All you have to worry about is
kidding.
That sniper.
I've never had power interruptions.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and
never
get
had
started.
power interruptions in Afghanistan, Syria, or Iraq.
The Engineer Corps, man, the good old Engineer Corps. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is David Ortiz. Today we have a special Memorial Day special that we're broadcasting to you all. Quite often, we get thanked on this day, and when I say me, veteran service members, today's not about us. Memorial Day is a very specific day to remember and honor the fallen. So in light of that, I wanted to bring together a good group of veterans and service members to talk about what it means to them. We're going to start with intros. So Ryan, if you would start us off, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yep. Ryan Foster, Marine Corps infantry guy. Was in from 03 to 07. Did 2 deployments over in Iraq. And yeah, I don't know what else you want to kind of know, but it's kind of quick and easy.
All right. Reg?
Yeah, so Reginald Oliver, a warrant officer in the U.S. Army, flying 864 Delta and Echo Apaches. I'm a maintenance test pilot. Did a couple of tours in Afghanistan. Just recently got back from the immediate response force deployment to Kuwait, doing some work there and doing some work in the Arabian Gulf, deterring Iranian aggression on the Lewis B. Polar. And here we are. Dave, it's good to see you, man.
You too, brother. All right, John.
Hey, John Hunt, U.S. Army service member, Apache pilot as well, just like Reggie. Been in the Army 22 years, 8 deployments that span between Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. It's good to be here today. Dave's a good friend of mine. Reggie's a really good friend of mine as well. And like Dave said, we're here gathered here today to honor the fallen and remember all of our camaraderie over the years. So appreciate y'all having me.
Great to have you on, John. Thanks for that. Joel, finish us up.
Joel Davidson. I was an Apache helicopter pilot in the Army. I went to Warrant Officer Candidate School with David and Reginald, and then we went to different places. And now I live back in Colorado, where I just finished school at U, and I get to see David on a pretty regular basis now because we live not far from each other. And just happy to be here.
Yeah, through
That's
a computer screen these days. But yeah, there was a time where we'd get together quite often in person. But I want to thank you guys so much for being here. This is a special point of privilege for me that I wanted to make sure we did this, just because, like I said earlier, often I feel like there's misconceptions or a misunderstanding of what Memorial Day weekend is really about. It's a time to celebrate life. Get out there, do your picnics, go fishing, enjoy your family, what's going on. But really, it's about honoring those that paid the ultimate sacrifice and service to this great nation. So we're here to discuss that. And so to that point, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what it means to serve with some of these amazing women, what it was like to be around them, and then kind of what it's like to lose them, and kind of the mark that leaves on you, and kind of how the service member family or veteran family kind of rallies around that. So, and I'll start off just to give you guys fodder, but just for me, I think part of the reason why it's so critical, obviously I've lost friends, but also because that was almost me, and to know that there's a ready-made built family in there to check in on your family, to see how they're doing every once in a while, to remember the good times they spent with you, the stupid things you might have done, the fun times, the serious times, combat, all that stuff matters. It matters to me, for sure. So if anybody wants to take it from there and talk about what it was like to serve with some of those men and women and what it means to them.
I can kind of jump in. We come from a long line of family that serves. Both my grandfathers, World War II vets, dad's a Vietnam vet, 82nd Airborne. And then both my brother and I became Marines. And, I think there's some of the family stuff. I kind of love the whole mix of what the military brings. You got, whether it's a long line of family that's doing it, or maybe you want to go to try to get college paid for or whatnot, you find out it starts turning into a lot bigger thing than just probably what you thought you were going in for. And, your brothers and sisters in arms and stuff, and you really start to create some amazing bonds and lifelong bonds, because you go through things that you never thought you'd probably go through. So I think for us, mine comes from my family, and just the love of our country. But that's
great. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely a phenomenal experience to be able to know that you can answer the call if required, and you are willing to do some things to protect others who would much rather not do what you are willing to do, or go where you are willing to go. And to be able to experience some of the difficulties that I'm sure we've all gone through, and experience some of the hardships, and understanding how other people have experienced their military service, and bonding with them through that experience is, I think, something that you can't put a price on. And especially for those who have served and who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, it's not even just about them, it's about them and their families, and the way it impacts the entire military community. So I think it's super important that we continue to have war fighters who are willing to answer that call. You know what I mean? Because since I was 7 years old, I wanted to fly Apaches, but really it started September 11, 2001. I remember exactly where I was in high school. And from that day on, I knew exactly what I was going to do, and wanted to take the fight with, brave men and women, to the enemy, to at least defend America's interests. So really, it's one of those somber times when you have to remember that some of your friends, some of your comrades, some of the people that you spent time with and grew up with in this deal, you now have to carry the torch for them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely right. Thanks for that, Reg. We lost John, so Joel, if you want to pick it up from there.
Yeah, serving in the military is an honor and a privilege, and it's been some of the best experience of my life, and I've met some of the best people in the world, and I really think it is some of the best of America who joins the military, and it does a lot to bring the country together, people from all walks of life, and it's a real privilege, but it comes with dangers and sacrifice, and so like Veterans Day is a day to thank veterans, but today is a day to honor those that did not make it back, and so we should think about that on days like on the Memorial Day. Think about those who didn't make it back and how we can honor their sacrifice, and think about their families too.
Absolutely right. I think I think in a lot of ways, and I think more people are starting to recognize this, but the family serves in more difficult ways. I mean, because it's the service member that puts themselves in harm's way, but they volunteered, right? The family didn't. The family is just supporting them as best they can, whether we're talking about a spouse or a mom or a dad or a brother or sister. I think one of the most impactful stories for me was when my brother told me what it was like to tell my mom about the crash. And just her collapsing to the ground and starting to bawl, going to a couple of funerals and seeing the way it impacted them, and to see some, brother or sister in arm with so much life and with so much fight, but like so much compassion, but in a box, and to see how it impacted their family, that was tough. And honestly, I'll be honest here, it was a turning point for me in my recovery because it was tough in the beginning, but when you see something like that, you're like, all right, I'm done feeling sorry for myself because I get to be here and my family didn't have to go through that. But it is important to call the special way that the family serves, when the service member is in, but also the way it impacts them when there's a loss and how it impacts this country because of that. For sure. Yeah, they serve in their own ways. But yeah, let's move on and talk about some of the memories though. Like I don't know, some of the reasons why and I think going off of what Joel says, why you make some of the best friends in service is because of some of the memories you have. Whether it's some of the stupid pranks you pull on each other while you're at walk school or when you're at your first unit, or God, I think one of my favorite was going on deployment. And, first deployment ever, you show up and you're like, all right, here goes. Going to like brush my teeth and shower the first day. And I see Foley, who went through walk school with us, but was with the Wyoming Guard. And so I think that meant like, oh, Ulrich has got to be around here. Hey, is Ulrich here? Like, is he here? I didn't even know he was going to be here, but like happened to bump into somebody that I was so close to on a first deployment randomly, like just him being at the same fob. And it was a freaking godsend because it was my first deployment. So like as a new Woj or as a lower ranking warrant officer, you get the crap room, the one that doesn't have like the spiral staircase that some carpenter built out with the high bunk bed. It was just like the cell. And he was good with carpentry, so he helped me set up my room so that I wasn't living, in this cell on deployment. So I don't know. That's one of my favorite memories by how like random the military can be, but how fortuitously random, And just throughout deployment, like I remember they built a gazebo area, and we would have Bible study out there every once in a while. So just those kind of memories, or barbecuing or grilling. Out there every once in a while, or because they were medevac, they were in with the doctors and nurses, and they always got the better foods. They would have like spaghetti Thursdays or something like that. So I would like escape from my scout pilot brothers and be like, "Hey, what's going on, medevac? How's it going?" But I don't know. For me, it's things like that stick out in my head the most. Even when you're in combat in the tough times. I mean, spaghetti nights were while we were deployed in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think especially one of my fondest. I mean, there's plenty, but one of my fondest memories was, first deployment, 2011, Jalalabad, and just like you said, you're on pins and needles the first few days, or the first few weeks, or the first couple of months, because you have no idea what to expect, and to have people around you. I remember going to the CP one day. And we were still trying to get stuff figured out. Captain Mackey was in there. Stephen Rojas was in there. Name drop. So if you can tag him. But we were both trying to figure everything out because we had gone to walk school together. So even though he graduated candidate school a few weeks before me, because I got injured in flight school, we wound up in the same unit, the same company, and then deployed to the same place. And we were just trying to figure everything out, to a point that once we started getting in the flow of things and started getting engagements, I'll never forget that we were calling him the cooler, or we were calling him the ice box, because he was the last one in the entire company to get an engagement, right, against the enemy. So it's just, I still clown him to this day every time I can, because we know what the struggle is like to try to get that engagement and to work it with the BSO or the battle space owner or the ground force commander, especially supporting infantrymen, whether it's Marine Corps, whether it's our Army, whether it's the Czechs, the Polish, whoever. It was one of my fondest memories to continually clown Rojas because he was the cooler. So,
I love that. Yeah, I mean, and it is about that, right? It is picking on each other. I mean, to talk about one of the fallen, like one of my favorite memories of Talia Ramirez was because she was out of Bagram, flying out of Bagram. Yeah, she was flying out of Bagram, and then so she came to do like a special stint. We call it kind of the exchange program, and so flew with us for a couple of weeks. And God, I was never big on Call of Duty, but I like, we had this tree house that they built between bunkers, so go up there to hang out with everybody, and she was playing Call of Duty, and so I like jump on there. She was so good that she specifically spent the entire game knifing me. She kept killing me by knifing me. I sucked so bad. So like throwing the controller up in the air and be like, I quit this game. And she was like, I hope you are harder on the enemy than you are on me, because this is too easy. I'm like, get out of here. I quit. I'm not playing this game with you anymore.
Yeah, dude. Oh, it's the absolute best, man. I miss it, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and to talk about Jose, like some of the memories that I have of him. I remember at Bragg, Halloween specifically, and I don't know if he was being lazy or what, but he dressed up as a cholo. Whatever. So we're like, I call that a lazy costume, man. Like, you're Hispanic, you're Mexican American, man. Come on, do better. But we were like, I didn't realize it at first, but everybody there is having a good time, and like he was walking around sneaking like hard liquor in people's drinks, and even if it was beer, just like if someone left the cup down, he'd be like, ba-doop, ba-doop. By the end of the night, like some people would sip on their drinks, and they'd be like, whoa, by the end of the night. So that. But he was like a mentor. I mean, he was originally from Texas, Harlingen. One of the only other Mexican Americans I knew that flew. Yeah. That flew Kiowas that was in my squadron. So anytime I was having a rough time or, had questions, always go to him. And to be honest with you, like initially in my injury, he, spent some of his R&R, gathered his family, and came to visit me. And I remember him pushing me so hard to make a promise not to give up and to keep serving the country. And like at the beginning, I didn't want to hear it. I was not in a place where I wanted to hear it. At the very beginning, part of me wished I would have died in that crash, because I mean, all of you guys knew who I was before I got hurt for the most part. Yeah. I mean, I was a runner, car charging, overachieving aviator, like what I was compared to what I thought was going to look like afterwards. But yeah, if it wasn't him always trying to push to make that promise, and even now I carry it with me, like being asked to run for office, like it's like, well, he made me promise I would keep serving the community in the ways he said I knew that I could. So here I am. So I blame him. I know you can hear me, bro. I blame you. But yeah, I mean, it's stories like that. I mean, going back to Matt Ulrich, like I remember the tower was calling to him, and the medevac was in the air, and he's like, you got your Kiowas taken off, and Ulrich over on purpose was like, yeah, tally on the Kiowas, they're never a factor. And I was like, all right, I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, all right, where you can get them.
Oh man.
Ryan, what was it like, man, working especially infantry in the Marines? Because that's a completely different picture and a completely different perspective that us three will ever have.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. And kind of going back to hitting on your kind of story about having weird connections and things that happen. So before I went in, my senior year when the Columbine shooting happened, I was at Columbine. We experienced something crazy then. And so dealing with a lot of loss just then as a senior in high school. And now fast forward to kind of after 9/11, that's when I dropped out of college to join and go fight. When I got to when I was in boot camp, I ran into a guy from my high school. None of us knew we were going in. All of a sudden I hear Foster. I was like, what the heck? And you're like, what are you doing here? And he's like, what are you doing here? And
I love that.
That's awesome.
Found out he was going to infantry, and so was I. Fast forward through SOI school and all that, checking into my unit. up on the catwalk, here's a dude yelling my name again, and we're checking into the same unit, same platoon. We were all cat, and then there was another guy from our high school. So we had 3 guys from our high school, all make it in and go, like, got to go serve together and all that. And so that was a pretty crazy, like, just way God kind of put us together.
Coincidence.
Yeah. But you know, it was tough. There was a thing, you know, the Marines, we pride ourselves on the work we do, and with less. I always loved going to your guys' bases, especially Air Force bases. It was like air conditioning and ice cream cones and
a shower.
Well, you got a couple Apache pilots here. They don't fly if their AC doesn't work. Just throw that out there. But continue.
But there's just a love you get from going through the grind. I think when, you know, in the midst of things, it's tough. You know, we lost close to 30 guys in our battalion in 2 tours, and it was tough. I mean, and there was the times, kind of like speaking to Ortiz, there was times like, you know, I got injured my first tour, and there was times I felt like, you know, how did someone, you know, watch a guy pass that had a family, had kids and all this, and like, here I am, I don't have anyone. I mean, I do have a family and stuff, but kind of that survivor's feeling of, you know, and then watching the families go through their pain is definitely a tough thing. And C.S. Lewis says the loss of a loved one is like an amputation. And I always feel like for all the families and people that, you know, experience loss, that is, you've lost something. Like if you lost your arm, you're never getting it back, and you got to live through the rest of your life with it, knowing that it's gone, and it's always going to be there. It's just kind of how you adapt and change from that. So.
Absolutely. 30. Yep. Wow. That's a lot of people to lose in a battalion. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, going off that quote, first of all, C.S. Lewis quote, awesome. Wait for that. I primo, but it is. I mean, it's the phantom pain that never goes away, right? Yeah. And that's how family members have described it to me, that I stay in touch with when they've lost somebody, is you never really get used to it. Like, time goes by, sure, but you always feel it. It's like some shadow on your shoulder. Like, you always feel it every day. And that's a part of it too. That's a part of like the trauma of it and what you decide to do with it, right? Is hopefully you decide to find the joy in life, right? And to carry their memory with you as you try and find the joy for them and with them, right? I think there's an aspect of feeling like I have to earn the right to be here, because I almost wasn't. I don't know if you guys ever feel that. Like, for those that didn't get to make it back, it's like you have to earn the right to be here. Or is that just me? That's just the way I feel.
No, it's not. That is definitely a thing, man. Because when you grow up with these folks, you endure hardships with these folks, you learn to love these people as your brother or your sister, you know what I mean, in arms. And when you lose them, like, you never forget that. You never lose that. It's not going to be the same gravity as with their family, but they're still family, man. You know, so it's always going to hurt. You're always going to remember them. This day, Memorial Day, will always mean something to a greater level of depth than someone that doesn't have a connection with a service member. You know what I mean?
Absolutely right. Ryan, do you keep in touch with your platoon mates or with those that knew the people that you lost, or have you guys kind of moved on?
Yeah, no, we are all very connected. The 3 of the guys are here in Colorado. So,
cool.
One of them was even in my vehicle the whole time. So it's been a huge like base for us. And I think that's what a lot of veterans need, is to keep continuing those relationships, even if you're distant or whatnot, because the isolation, if you put yourself in an isolation point, you kind of start going a little nutty. So yeah, I mean, and I think the sad thing too is, I mean, we're on talking about Memorial Day stuff and loss, but you know, we're like you guys too. And I know you guys have, but we're losing guys to suicide and things like that.
Yeah,
it's like we all have to go to, like, a bunch of us try to go to the funerals and stuff, and so then we get to see like 20, 30 guys that we haven't seen for like 5-10 years, you know, or so. And it's good seeing them, but it's also hard that we're still losing guys, you know.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit. And before I go on, like, part of the reason why I like StreamYard is because people can interact. So we got Ross Pate saying, Reggie, and what's up? But yeah, let's talk about suicide among service members and veterans, because it is an issue that sticks with us.
Yeah.
And to be vulnerable again, this speaks to the fact that at the very beginning, every day for a few months, I wish I would have died in that crash. Now, I'll be honest, like, it was my family and my spirituality that was like, well, I'm not going to do it myself. So we'll see how recovery goes. Maybe they'll get to finish the job. But there are dark moments. And what is that a function of? Like, what is it because of the difficulty of reintegrating afterwards? Like, for me, I remember like being in Colorado and trying to hang out with like 20-something-year-olds and early 30-something-year-olds again, and just partying all the time because I was just happy that I wasn't dead. It got to a point where I was happy that I wasn't dead, but I was partying all the time. But I was still like on edge, and I would say some mean stuff to people because I would look at them in their privilege sometimes with everything that I had lost and having lost people ourselves, and just be like, grow up, like, suck it up, buttercup, like saying mean crap like that. And just, I mean, I've made people cry before. This is like the transition of my first year coming back into the civilian world. So you think it's a function of that? Like, after going through what you go through with some of the men and women that you go through with, and then you get to come back here to try and enjoy the peace, but there's something about it that just seems difficult, or what? I don't know, guys. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's hard to transition. A lot of guys I've known, and I was one of them when I got out, I was just kind of angry at the world and pissed off at a lot of people after several deployments. And I didn't even really have it as bad as some guys did. But it's a really good thing to think about on Memorial Day. One way to honor those that died and didn't make it back is to look out for your teammates that are here, because they wouldn't want one of their buddies to get back home and die of suicide. And so if you have any of your platoon mates, teammates that you haven't talked to in a while and you don't know how they're doing, it's a good time to talk to them and see how they're doing. I do have a friend who, I don't know how far along he was, but he said he was thinking about suicide after getting out, and I'm glad that we stayed in touch, and he's doing a lot better now. And yeah, it's a good time to think about that, and a good time to think about people maybe you haven't talked to in a while.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point to go off that too. And like, if your friends aren't talking to you, there's probably a reason for that. Now I'll out myself here a little bit. Like, the first couple of years in recovery, I made it other people's responsibility to reach out to me because I didn't feel like I was in a good place, one, to offer anything to anybody except for like what I was going through, except for toughness. So I was like, well, I'm not going to burden them with that crap. So I'm just going to keep to myself until I figure it out and until I learn to deal with it. Probably not the healthiest thing looking back on it now. But I'm on the other side of that now, and I do randomly text or call people. I mean, Ryan, I was trying to shoot because I know you got kids and a family that you've got now. So, but like, you're dead on, Joel. Like, it is about like reaching out randomly. I mean, Nate Allison, I reach out to him every once in a while too. And like, part of it too is because I'm sensitive now that I'm in my run for office. I don't want people to think that I'm just reaching out for them. It's like, hey, come support me, or hit. No, it's just like, hey, man, I'm just reaching out to say what's up and how are you doing, and I'm proud of you. And I'm, Nate's about to retire, and he's got a new job at a marina, and he loves sailing now. Like that's the hobby that he's losing himself in. So, I mean, I think we're all connected in that way. And when you hear your brothers and sisters doing well, it kind of motivates you and uplifts you. I love hearing that. But when you lose somebody, it's a little ding against you. Like, oh man, what could I have done? I don't know. I ask myself that sometimes.
Yeah, and Memorial Day, Joel, you're spot on, dude. Like, hit the nail on the head, man. Because even a lot of times people will associate Memorial Day with those who have fallen maybe in combat, or maybe doing official duties, or whatever spin you want to put on. But I think veteran suicide is like 21 or 22 a day, something like that. And it's 21 or 22 a day, or however many it is, too many. And honestly, man, to keep connections with people, to make sure that you can maintain that bond with them and maintain that value and worth of every single human life is super important. Because, I mean, that's another one of the fallen. If we lose one of our own because we may not have been attentive enough, or, we might feel like we didn't do enough for them. But you're absolutely right on the money, man, because it's something to be said that there are so many veterans right now, whether they are transitioning to civilian life like you, Joel, or Dave, or Ryan, because I'm still in, right? Or if they're just coming home and trying to reintegrate with their families, because I got an opportunity, unfortunately, to experience the precursors of some of that over this last deployment with a service member who was having some difficulties at home and was having some issues. And of course, there is the pressure of having to perform whenever you're downrange somewhere. And slowly but surely, it got to a point where he needed to be escorted somewhere. He needed to be talked to. He needed to be looked after. And we sometimes get so caught up, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but I think sometimes we get caught up in this monotonous, we have to do things for ourselves, and we have to be tough, and we have to be strong, and we have to be that poster child for the military where nothing bothers you. But fundamentally, we are all human. And I mean, Dave, like, keep doing what you're doing, bro. And Ryan, keep doing what you're doing. Joel, keep doing what you're doing. Because and I will continue to strive to do it even more, is to maintain connections with people and let them know that we are still just human beings, man. Just going through this thing of life together. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, we got Diana Akra that says, thanks for having this, because a lot of us don't have access to meet and learn about veterans, but we care. So really appreciate her words there. Yeah, just going past that too. That's why certain organizations can be critical, or certain nonprofits can be critical. I know for me in my life, it was adaptive sports. I mean, and I don't know if it's something about, being in military service anyways. I think a lot of us want to do something tangible in service to this nation. So that might be a factor that draws us in. But being on the other side of the injury, it was being able to tangibly be active again and accomplish goals, like ski down mountains and mountain bike again. That was critical for me. And I want to call attention to the Reveille Project. I mean, I went through the Reveille Project. Ryan Foster is the founder of the Reveille Project. They pay for a year of CrossFit and do nutritional, there's a nutritional aspect of it. And if it speaks to you, there's also the optional, like, spiritual aspect of it, which I love, because it sought to try and look at the whole person, right? And I mean, everybody makes fun of CrossFit until you do CrossFit. And it becomes like a little family, but like, and they make fun of themselves too, by the way. Like, I mean, it's just, I really enjoyed my time with Kevin Ogar, who's, a paraplegic that owns a gym that, also helped manage that program and was supportive of that program. So to be able to compete against someone that, for, no pun intended, was on equal footing as I was. I mean, we have basically the same injury level. And I remember just being able to get out there and compete, and I was a lot lighter than him. So when it came to like push-ups and pull-ups, I'd crush him. But then when it comes to like throwing weights around, he'd crush me. So we'd always be like neck and neck during different rounds and stuff like that. And just to be able to do that again and have some sense of normalcy, like these organizations and these nonprofits that reach out and then help create that community and help mend that community and help bring a service member out of that isolation is critical. Something I want to call attention to that we need more of. So challenge to my brother and sister veterans out there are organizations that speak specifically to our sister veterans. Because I don't think we're doing the job so far. And with traditional VSOs, I don't. And they have unique experience. I mean, I've got the GI Forum, which is a Latinx focused, veteran service organizations, and they have like burger nights. And whenever I get together with them, it feels like I'm hanging out with relatives in Texas. Like, it's weird, but it just feels that way. Right. So, but, big shout out to organizations like the Reveille Project and others. I mean, we do need to maintain that contact on an individual level, but we need to understand the major role that these organizations and these nonprofits play in helping a service member through a difficult time, because we don't want to be losing anymore. And because think about it, man, how much money did our country pay to train us? Right?
Oh, wow.
And to give us these skills. I mean, and like I've had some ground guys and gals that are like, how's this going to translate into civilian life? And I'm going to give a shout out to a veteran brother, Travis Weiner, who went to law school. I mean, he was a ground guy, went to CU Law School. I remember him advocating on the higher education bill that I was trying to get passed that did pass. And then he advocated and led the charge on a bill that was going to give those on the SIV, the special immigrant visa, like combat interpreters, was going to give them in-state tuition here in Colorado. So fought for that bill. And now is a public defender. Like, well, I mean, if anything else, you can put up with eating that poop sandwich and like dealing with stress and getting through law school and doing what you have to do and advocating and fighting against the system. So, I mean, there's a skill set that our brother and sister service members bring to the table. For those of us that are on the other side of it, you know, I look at it as our responsibility to help out where we can. And we got to be cognizant too, though, our journey isn't over. Like, I would be lying to y'all if I didn't say that I still had dark days every once in a while. You know, we all do. And I think that's a function of being trusted with so much on behalf of your country, something so big. Let's talk about that. What is that like? What was that like for you to be, all of a sudden it's like, here's an M4, here's a helicopter, here's this, go serve our country. You're responsible for this now. And you're also responsible for either being trained by your mentor or training others. Like, what was that like for you guys? Bueller, don't all jump in at once.
Ryan, I think you're up first, bro.
All right. Yeah, no, it's crazy to see, because, you know, I was the kind of the 9/11 generation, so I was in my third year in college. So I guess you could say I had a little bit more maturity, but not really. You know, but you got these, like, I feel like now when I see an 18-year-old, I'm like, you're a freaking kid, dude. And here we are, trusted to go freaking fight battles. And it's pretty insane. And like, they, you know, the military does create men and women out of them. And I think now back to the stuff we did in combat and all that, and it's crazy to what we accomplished. I mean, and it takes leadership. You got to have those good officers, NCOs leading you in the way, and I think it's ingrained in the military. And you know, that's why we can be so effective outside of the military and in the military, is because of our leadership traits that get built into us. And I wish I would have kind of paid attention more to what was being brought to me. I did lack maturity, I think, even in those years, but definitely starting to see a lot of it more now as I get older, like just the opportunities I had and the life experiences. But yeah, I think I didn't think about it as much then, but I was like, holy crap, there was a lot on our shoulders, right? You know, so yeah, it's pretty crazy, but yeah, that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, but you're also reflecting on it with the lens that you have now. Right. So, like, I mean, I went through walk school and flight school when I was 25. And I would even say I think I lacked some maturity even then, you know what I mean? I didn't understand the gravity of it all as I was going through it. That was just the next adventure, but the next adventure to serve my country and do something bigger than myself is the way I looked at it. So, but yeah, I mean, that's really cool that you were able to reflect on it now. Joel, what was that? Yeah, I mean, you were infantry before you went through flight school.
I was a combat engineer before.
And yeah, that's right.
You have to play with explosives. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. Whether you're flying a helicopter or whatever you end up doing, the first time you're actually doing it, you're not in training, it's a lot of pressure. And you mostly just don't want to let down the other guys in your unit, mostly. Yep. And everybody feels that pressure, and that's kind of a good thing. It makes you really strive and want to perform well, and not let other guys down. And yeah, it was hard, but like, I'm so glad I did it, and I learned a lot from it. And I think it's not something people should be afraid of or shy away from. People should take on responsibility, and whether it's in the military or whether it's in other areas of life. But the military just kind of makes you do that. You don't really have a choice. You sign up, and then they're going to make you take on that responsibility. So that's the good thing that it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Like drinking through a fire hose, man. Like it is so beneficial though, because I mean, I guess I can equate it to the civilian world a little bit, because of course I was a civilian and I went to college and all that stuff before joining the military. And the one thing that a lot of professions and a lot of things do in the civilian world is they give you plenty of time to prepare. And generally you are resourced adequately to do so for whatever task that is, right? Yeah. But I mean, what it's like, at least from my perspective, in my opinion, you know, first going through flight school, drinking through a fire hose, and then the learning curve was pretty much vertical. And then with that trust the military gives you and how it translates to outside of the military for all of our veterans who are either transitioning or who have transitioned, they can probably attest to this, is, you know, not only being given that responsibility, but it's pretty much a sink or swim mentality. You know, the transition from a PI to a pilot to a pilot in command is okay. You think you're ready, we're going to give you a $28 million helicopter with another life or lives on board, and you're going to go out and train to fight and win America's wars. Good luck. And it's like it's sink or swim.
It's almost like
yeah, like I'm gonna go forth and do great things. But that translates so well, because when you get out, or when you're transitioning to civilian life, or if you try to transfer that to civilian life, it's very easy to identify the processes that you need to be successful in whatever discipline that may be, because once it's all about the process, and it's all about picking that process out to its, bare nuts and bolts, and figuring out step by step what you need to do, which the military is very good at training us to do, is figure out the process that works, tear it apart, build it back up, make it better. And I think that is probably the greatest transfer that any of our veterans service members could ever use.
And I'll piggyback off that too, to caveat that too. Like, one tactic it gave me was to always apply maximum pressure in all areas to get the desired result. And like, I'm just going to now speak, like, having been a lobbyist, like, I really do think that people underestimated me, whether it was because of the wheelchair. Like, you don't see too many people active lobbying at the state capitol in a wheelchair. I think there's one or two other individuals that I saw regularly there. But what I was able to do because of the skills that the military gave me to prepare, and like, there was the one bill that I was the most proud of was the higher education reform bill. Because I remember there was a team of 5 lobbyists that were opposed to it, came up to me and said, this has no chance of passing. And I just remember thinking on the inside, okay, you don't know me, you don't know the team I have surrounding me. Let's see what happens. Good luck. And not for trying, because there were times when they would like try and slap a fiscal note on it or do this and that. And I'm just like, what? All right, I see what you're doing there. You say you support veterans and you don't oppose this bill, but your actions don't speak to that. Baloney. I'm calling it. So but just never giving up and always applying maximum pressure and being very aggressive and assertive about it. I mean, it got to the point where I got into a shouting match with a couple of these lobbyists. Like, and at the end of the day, it's like, look, I'm not here to represent you. And if being transparent, if you call that throwing you under the bus, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, that's kind of how I approach anything now post-military service, is like you said, like breaking it down, identifying, the most critical aspects of it. And then for me, it was always applying maximum pressure and not doing it alone though, too, because you don't do it alone. Like, what was really telling was when we had like CU students coming to advocate for this bill, even though CU's lobbyists were against this bill. And there was like 8 or 9 of them that showed up, so it's really about being able to manage and build that team and work together for a greater purpose. I think that's what I always carry with me. I don't know if you guys have anything to add on that, if you see the same thing in your lives or yes, no? All right, let's go to the lightning round. All right, so this is the purpose of this, just to have a little bit of fun and for people to get to know you a little bit out there. So I'm just going to ask a bunch of random questions and you give quick answers. There's only one question I'll let you explain, and we'll save it for the end on what's your favorite book. But let's start with who's your favorite superhero?
You want to go? Are we going to have an order? You want to go with Ryan and Joe?
Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Ryan, Joe, Reg. So who's your favorite superhero?
Thor.
All right.
Batman.
Awesome.
Superman.
Professor X. All right.
You would.
Let's go with.
Yeah.
I mean, look, leg walker me, it would be Wolverine, but like, all right, let's go with does pineapple belong on pizza?
No.
Absolutely not.
Yes, my homies. The answer is no. Maybe on your pizza, but definitely not mine. Let's go with is deep dish pizza pizza? No.
Yeah, on that one, I'm more into all types of crust for pizza.
Awesome.
I mean, it's a pizza pie, man.
Yeah.
God, you guys are killing me. To me, it's pizza. I'm sorry. My Midwest, like Kate, my fiance, says the same thing. She's like, it is a pie or a casserole. You cannot call it pizza. So she's got your back there, Brian, for sure. Let's go into favorite president. And you get an honorable mention if you want. If one's too hard, do favorite and then honorable.
Ooh.
I'll probably go Reagan.
Okay.
Or Lincoln. Yeah.
All right.
Probably it.
16.
Yeah, I think FDR and Lincoln, I think, wartime presidents that I think rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
Washington and Lincoln, 1 and 16.
We're gonna have a conversation about this. We're about to end the lightning round because I want to talk about some of this. I'm gonna give myself two honorable mentions. So I'm gonna go with FDR and Lincoln too. But like, I got to give a shout out to one of the, in my opinion, best presidents in my lifetime, President Obama. So just leave that at that. But let's talk about Washington. Let's do that. I'm impressed. Here's why. I mean, he definitely belongs up there of all time. Like, he should be in his own category because he had the opportunity to consolidate power and to hold on to power and to take the United States down the same road that other countries have gone down. Yet he had the integrity and the will and the character to see what America could be and choose not to. Mm-hmm. To me, that is extremely impressive because most humans in the face of power don't just give it up that easily.
He didn't want it, and he was a war fighter. He was a warrior's warrior, and he was a general's general. He didn't want it, and other people said, "Well, you're going to take it." And I think at some point he did what he knew was best for his country, and that is the one thing that you can say is ultimate service to your nation, is to do what you are willing to do for your nation, even though you don't want to.
Amen. I think that's at the heart of what true service is about. It's the idea of kind of the reluctant servant that's going to take on this mantle of power and responsibility, but they don't truly want it, but they're still going to do the best they can and make the best decisions, not for themselves or for their family, but for the American family, right? And I think this transition into the next good topic, because really part of what I wanted to keep this was very apolitical and talk about the fact that service members, no matter who is in office, no matter what party, despite the personality, despite the part, irrelevant, that we serve no matter what. Why do you think, or do you think that quality is even more critical in today's climate? And if you do, why?
Which quality are you talking about? The reluctant servant, or are you talking about to remain as possible?
Yeah, let's talk about to remain, regardless of who is in power, like personality wise, or what party's in power. That it's about the service. What's going on up there, for all intents and purposes, for us is irrelevant. Like, we are going to serve every day, no matter what.
Sure. Who's taking it first?
I'll just see. Yeah. So in the military, we swear to uphold and defend the Constitution. We're not a president or not a party, not a political party. We're not a political force. We're a force to defend the Constitution, and that is something that every American needs to know, and everybody in government needs to know, and they need to consider that, especially at times like this. It's not red versus blue. It's us as a country standing up for the basic rights that we all agree on.
Mm-hmm. Ryan?
I'm gonna let Reg talk first, and then I'll go.
Oh, the Heisman, I like it. Yeah, man. So, of course, it's important that a service member always remain apolitical, especially in the execution of their official duties. That's understood. But I think it's also important that each service member understand that while they are wearing the uniform, it's apolitical, and of course, you must obey. You must support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Right? But you are still a constituent. You are still a citizen of the United States. In fact, you are a warrior citizen. So to understand how you can appropriately apply your rights as a citizen under the Constitution of which you willfully defend, it's also important to understand how to exercise those in a way that is most beneficial to not only your area, but to the nation.
Yep. Absolutely right. You still have a duty and obligation to vote and to participate.
All right, Ryan, you're up.
Yeah, you nailed it right there, man. That's just kind of a good segue. I was kind of trying to put together my thoughts, and I was like, Reg said it. Moving forward with that, I think if some of our leaders and stuff kind of remained in a neutral balance somewhat, I mean, obviously we have our things that we think would benefit each other, but those are just one man or one woman's thoughts, you know, and as a leader, stewarding what the whole group collectively could look at and want takes a different level, a different skill to really listen to what, you know, we the people need and want. So I think, yeah, in my aspect, just the stewardship of the people in the power and all that, just being, I would hope more of them would be listening more instead of always implementing their one thoughts and things like that. So.
No, and I think that was a great follow-up because you hit on probably what I think is the most critical character quality of maybe any leader, but definitely an elected leader, is being willing to listen. And, you know, in my service member days, I really had a lot of pride, and there was a lot of like assertive aggressiveness, like I'm tough, I can endure anything, I can do anything. It was a mentor of mine in being an advocate and lobbyist who went to divinity school, served as a lobbyist for the Department of Health and Human Services. He taught me how important that skill was, because as an elected leader, you have to listen to everybody, even if you personally don't agree with them, right? You have to be open to hearing everybody. And I think why I appreciate my service, besides all the other things we talked about, and why I appreciate y'all's brotherhood and people's sisterhood and friendship, is because I trust y'all's heart. And I know that it lies with this country and wanting to see it thrive and flourish. And even though some of us might disagree, I enjoy y'all's company. I look to you guys to talk every once in a while to get that perspective and to hear you out. Anyways, even if I don't always agree, and I'm sure you guys look at me the same way. God, guys in my troop put it the best way, like because they were giving me a hard time and just being kind of dicks at one point. And I was just like, you know what? I'm done with this conversation. They're like, no, come back. We love you. And I'm like, you guys just think I'm just some big, huge hippie. And they're like, yeah, but you're our hippie. So come back. You know, because, you know, at the end of the day, we all belong to the same American family. And I think that's one of the characteristics and qualities that I love about service. I think why Memorial Day feels a little heavy or hits me particularly hard is because, yeah, they're not our blood, and there's a special pain that actual family goes through when they lose a service member, but they're family. And because of that, their family is our family. And we feel that loss with them. And we mourn with them because we carry good memories that we had with them, that they lent their loved one to this country. And because of that, to us. And we had the privilege to joke around and laugh and smile with them. We had the privilege to go through some difficult things together, to survive situations probably we shouldn't have survived at some points. To do that together, I think that is definitely the biggest thing that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life. And that's why, you know, I will always go back to the American family despite our differences, because they're there, and to not recognize them, it would be like a little naive. I'm not trying to be naive here, but you know, part of being a leader too is to try and inspire the best in each other. And I'm humbled by the best that this country has to offer. And I think this panel is a small window into that. So, all right. not to shut this conversation down or anything, but let's finish up on a question and final thoughts. I want to hear what your guys' favorite books are and why. And maybe to let you guys gather your thoughts, I'll start off. And I've given my answer before, so people out there have heard this. But for me, it's Once an Eagle. That's by Anton Mayer, and it follows the careers of two Army officers, very different routes. One decides not to wait to go to West Point, so he goes enlisted during one of the World Wars. It's been a while since I've read the book now. During one of the World Wars, he gets a field on-the-spot commission. And it's two very distinct leadership styles. And one is about his career and the superiors above him. And the other is about those that he serves with and those that serve underneath him. It's kind of an archetype in leadership, but also I like to call it the American version of War and Peace because it is an epic. It follows their careers from before World War I, culminating in the Pacific Theater in World War II and ending in Vietnam. And it deals with, have you reflecting on issues like service to country, serving when you're married. Like, what if your kids want to serve? Like, dealing with a awesome CEO, dealing with a CEO that sucks and that sexually harassed your wife. Like, I mean, just it literally deals. It is the American version of War and Peace, and I have never encountered a book that elicited so much emotion and so much reflection and thought. Like, even with one of the leaders being embedded with the Chinese guerrilla fighters fighting against the Japanese during World War II. Like, it just, everything that it hits on was so impactful for me. So that's why that goes as one of my favorite books.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go. I'm going to do two. One's really quick and it's lighthearted, but when I was young, I think probably third grade, fourth grade, Hatchet. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that book.
Yep.
But when the kid goes down the plane and all he has is basically his hatchet to survive. And I mean, that really inspired me in being young and like, just, you know, kind of like fear of how you're going to take care of yourself if something bad happens, and, you know, watching someone that's young try to go through it. And then now it's in my faith, man. And it's the Bible, dude. I think it speaks so much truth to me. It guides me how to be a better man, how to be a better neighbor, a better husband, and just love people well. I mean, living with that servant heart, dude, is so big to me. And I just think everything I've gone through, that's the way I've always wanted to live. And it kind of brought me back to where I needed to be and focused on, you know, what is my purpose in life. So
that's awesome. Yeah, appreciate that, Ryan. I used to.
I have kind of a lot of favorite books. All the like psychology books that are like deal with cognitive biases, like Fooled by Randomness, and there's several like the Malcolm Gladwell books. A lot of those, they just help you look at the world in a different way. And I think they should be like, I don't know, in every college course or every required part of every college course. Those are really good. But there's another one that's more, I guess, pertinent to today. It's called Ghost Soldiers, and it's about the mostly Army, but there's some Marines and some other units that were captured at the outset of World War II in the Philippines, and they were imprisoned by the Japanese throughout the war. And then they were rescued at the end of the war. The first Ranger unit, one of their first raids that they did that made them, you know, the Rangers, was to go in and rescue those guys. And the hardship they went through, most of them died. The Japanese just had complete disregard, and they just despised anyone who surrendered. Even their own soldiers, if they surrendered, they saw them as, you know, like their country wouldn't even want them back. So that's how they treated them, and most of them died. But anyways, I read that when I was in Kuwait in the desert in 2003, waiting to go into Iraq, and just like thinking how life sucked. And then I read that book and realized, no, actually, my life wasn't that bad. And you know, they went through just terrible, terrible situations, but they just kept going and helped each other out. And the ones who did make it home, I just think like, man, I'm just so glad that, like, you know, they made it back. And that, you know, it sucks that we couldn't help them for so many years, but we were always going to go back and get them as soon as we could.
Outstanding. Good answer. All right, Reg, you're finishing us out.
Yeah, just one. All right. Well, because the Bible is understood, and of course the Catechism of the Catholic Church. But for books for enjoyment, I would say recently, I'm gonna have to one up and do three, but I swear I'll make it quick. So, at the top is A Republic If You Can Keep It, by Justice Gorsuch. Phenomenal book. Like, everybody, regardless of political party or affiliation or whatever, just read the book. Read the book. A Republic If You Can Keep It. Next is Just Mercy. Absolutely phenomenal book. I know they're making a movie. Read the book. And then, honestly, the Federalist Papers. I just got finished reading the Federalist Papers, word for word, and to see the passion, while it may be a difficult read for some, I would say, take it in chunks. But the passion that you see from some of our founding fathers who made the Constitution, I think it's important to at least get their perspective, and it's worth a read.
Awesome. Love that answer. And I had a feeling you're going to bring up the Federalist Papers, so I appreciate that. Well, gentlemen, we're at time. So just for everyone out there that tuned in and stuck with us the entire hour, thank you so much. It was an honor and a privilege to serve with so many amazing men and women that get to be with us still. Y'all, thank you for joining us today. Really, this weekend is about remembering those that no longer get to be with us. So please, for those of you out there that did get to serve with some of these amazing women that are no longer with us, carry their memory with you. Find the joy in life. Be thankful that you still get to be here and to enjoy the freedoms that they paid the ultimate sacrifice for. And for those that didn't get to, please take some time to reflect on them and on their families and friends that they leave behind, and enjoy the amazing freedoms that this country has to offer. So with that, we're going to send it out with some music. What are we going to listen to? What are we going out with, guys? I'm gonna do something personal favorite of mine. Something I've been enjoying right now. So Spanish. Nice.